some of your favorite dance styles and forms of dance?
I think jazz is one of my favorites, partially because I love old movie musicals. I love the character, the carriage. I love like watching Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, and Sid Charisse, and like just the storytelling, the vibe, the cool. So
Hmm.
I love jazz. I love jazz. I love it.
Do you have any favorite choreographers or choreographers who have inspired you?
Pat has inspired me. Pat Taylor, our artistic director of our company. I took a class with her before I was with her company, and I'd seen her company before, but I took class with her, and she said something to me that I had never heard before, a technique kind of thing. And I had been dancing 35 years, and I was like, huh, she just like in a 20 minutes into this class, like improved something that in the last 35 years I have not thought of or been explained to in that way.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, so I need to like pay attention and keep working with this person.
Hmm.
And she asked me to dance with her company. And one of the things that I love, one of my strong suits as a dancer, is that aspect of being able to tell a story. I may not have like the highest legs or, the highest jumps or the most turns or whatever, but I have a way of being able to relay emotion to an audience and pull them into the world that I'm into,
Hmm.
that I'm
Hmm.
in. And that is one of the things that is key to Pat's choreography is telling stories and telling stories of real people.
And is that a gift or something that can be learned?
It is something that can be improved, but at its most basic level, it's a gift. We've had dancers who have been able to, after like coaching and time, been able to kind of break through that barrier to a certain degree. But I know for myself, uh, to the degree that I'm able to do it, I feel like that is something that's natural. My daughter is the same way. I feel like she is a great storyteller. She has this energy that comes out and reaches to the audience and pulls them in to her. But she was also raised in a studio where they talked about that all the time. She trained actually with Lula Washington, and they train versatile dancers. They train dancers to tell stories. They train dancers to bring something out of themselves and give it to the audience. Um, they train people to put on a show and to hit it when it needs to be hit.
Hmm.
um, and that was one of the things that attracted me to Pat's work. Is it's so focused on that, and it's so focused on becoming one with the music and bringing the music to life. And we oftentimes use live musicians, which is an amazing gift to have that interaction, the energy with the musicians. And the music sounds a little different every time. So maybe this step is going to be, you're going to do it a little different this show than you did yesterday because, like, the horn player's playing a different kind of solo. And having that kind of freedom to work in that way and create in that way has been such a blessing and a gift for me these last 10 years,
Hmm.
however long I've been with her.
You mentioned
Yes,
Lula
Washington.
Washington. Yes, I shouldn't be stumbling over that, but I actually took some classes there way back when I was a kid. I seem to remember them having conga drums and
Yeah.
players.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Can you tell us about something about that company and how you got involved with them? Because they're
That,
kind of a legendary kind of company. I mean, they've been around a long time, very well
yeah.
respected company. Is she even alive still? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh
Yes, she
yeah.
is. So she's still doing the classes. Because I must have been 10 years old when if I'm remembering correctly, it was like somewhere around Pico and Washington
Hmm.
or somewhere around there.
Yeah. Her studio is down on Crenshaw and Coliseum, and
So
Miss
she's still
Lula.
got the same studio.
This one's a different
Oh,
one. They had a studio on Adams, and it was actually destroyed in the earthquake in '94.
mm-hmm.
So then they moved into a space on Pico for a while, until they were able
Yeah, I
to,
think that's where I saw them on Pico.
right, till they were able to settle with the city because the city was claiming that they're, was kind of claiming imminent domain on their land of their old studio after the earthquake. And they were like, up, hold up, no, this is our. So they were in a lawsuit for quite a while, and which they won and got enough money to build a brand new space, which is on, well, it's not brand new anymore, but to build a new space, a new home base on Crenshaw and Coliseum
So
there.
how does one build up a name for themselves like Lula Washington?
Time and tenacity.
Hmm.
Just time and tenacity. Her company is over 40 years old, and she has just kept plugging away and kept plugging away and kept plugging away and stayed dedicated to her vision and kept working. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like anything. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to be an overnight success.
I mean, she had a name for herself back then when I was a kid. I
Yeah,
think that's why my father took me there because of you'd heard about her name.
yeah.
Today's dancers versus dancers of the past. Do you think the plight is easier these days versus maybe when you started, or how has it changed and how the road one takes to become a personal dancer? I've heard that dancers are actually making a lot of money just off TikTok, putting things up there and making
Yeah, I was gonna
substantial
say
amounts of
the
money.
way dance is disseminated is much easier now because you do have YouTube, you do have TikTok. There's a lot more places where you can get your stuff out and get your face known, and even like agents and casting directors are looking at these things. They're looking at how many followers you have. They are looking online to see the next big whomever, next big craze. So
Mhm.
I think in that way, it's much easier to get your face and your work out into the world
Mhm.
um, than when I was coming up. Um, I also think there is a lack of dissemination of knowledge in general, and this is a big conversation in the teaching community right now. Is people teaching things but not acknowledging this came from the Horton technique, this came from the Graham technique, this came from, you know, whatever. People are just teaching steps and they don't necessarily know where they originated
Mhm.
or the technique behind them. There's a lot of teachers out there like that. Um, and so that,
And
in
that's
my,
because these teachers don't know it themselves and they kind of learned it from
they,
not being taught the roots or just laziness.
I think either they don't know it themselves because they weren't taught, or they were taught and they just didn't necessarily think, oh, that's important. Let me
Mhm.
just give you a step.
Mhm.
Um, I think a lot of people think anybody can teach dance, and there are a lot of popular dancers, popular TikTok dancers, or whatever, who are on the dance convention circuits and that kind of thing, and out there trying to teach who really aren't good teachers.
What do you think are the characteristic or qualities one should have to be a good and effective dance teacher?
One thing I think is an ability to break down a movement in different ways. Everybody teaches in different ways, everybody learns in different ways. Some people need a visual of a step, like it looks like this, or if you think of like being in a blender, or some people need the count, or um, you've got to be able to teach in a number of different ways, be able to break it down in different ways for different people, because not everybody learns the same way. And then I think there's also having that discerning eye of being able to look at somebody and see what the issue is, see
Mm-hmm.
why they're not getting the step, or see what one little thing, oh, like if you take your hip back here, then you'll get that thing. And not everybody has that ability to do that either.
Hmm.
Yeah.
In a business of highs and lows, how do you keep yourself strong in those low moments?
One thing I always like to say is my job is to audition.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to audition. If I actually get booked on something to teach or choreograph or perform, like that's cake. That's the cake. That's the extra.
Hmm.
But the job I signed up for is to put myself out there and to go after the work.
It's a
And
good
if
way
you
of
think of
looking at
it
it.
that way,
Mhm.
then it's not so, it doesn't feel so hard when all of the no's come. Because if I
Mhm.
go out and I do my audition, I did my job.
Mhm.
And if I feel good about my audition, that's the other thing is try and prep myself and get in a place where I can feel good about my audition. That's the only thing I can control.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not a
excellent.
business where you can control if you get hired or not. You might look like the ex-wife of the casting director. You might look too similar to the lead actress. You might look like the ex-wife of the lead actor. You don't, too tall, too short, a little too old, a little too young. But
Mhm.
I can't control any of that. All I can control is my preparation and my attitude.
Mhm. Do
That's
you
it.
do you have any role models?
Um, living or dead.
Either.
I have always loved
How do you stay so inspired?
I've always loved like Sammy Davis Jr. I've
Hmm.
always loved Gregory Hines, Robert Preston, um, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. I know they're all men. I don't know why that is. It just is. Um, I find I love the fact that they can do everything so well. I
And make
love
it
the
look so
fact
easy.
they can make it look so easy. Um, but I want to be like that. I want to be able to be that person that people are like, wait, you can sing like that? And you can dance like that? Oh my gosh, you just ripped my heart out in that scene.
Yeah.
Like I think that's
You
amazing.
are that person. You are
Thank
that
you.
person. How have you noticed the dance industry changing over the years or through the years? Pros and cons, for better or worse.
I think I think really the cons would be the whole the thing of how teaching is kind of devolved to a certain extent. And then there's also a huge discussion in academia right now over the treatment of non-classical forms. So ballet and modern are thought of as like technique and like these are must-haves, whereas like things like jazz and hip hop and um, Caribbean, ethnic kinds of dance forms, these also take technique. These are you not everybody can do them, and they're treated in collegiate academia as kind of like second cousins. And we're like, no, we're brothers and sisters. So there's a whole discussion about that. So a con is that discussion is happening, and the discussion of giving credit where credit is due, and not looking down on forms that are not thought as purely classical or purely technique, because there is technique involved in all of those things. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
there just is, and it's important. It's a discussion that's going on, which is a very good thing.
How has
I
the
think.
pen? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it's great being able to disseminate more dance online. Um, I think that's amazing. I think there are so many more companies now, so many more different expressions of physical movement that there is something, literally something, some place out there for everyone. Whatever your movement aesthetic is, there is somebody out there looking for you, you know,
Well,
to
that certainly
join
is
them
good to
and
hear.
create.
Uh, how has the pandemic affected the dance community, and are is the community starting to finally recover now?
Um, to a certain extent, like any other performing arts community, we were decimated by the pandemic. Having people in a space, sweating and breathing hard and moving through space was very difficult. Um, it shut down a lot of studios, shifted some to outdoor training. Lula was fortunate enough to get a grant to build a stage in their parking lot so
Hmm.
they can teach outdoor classes.
Hmm.
A lot of studios now are kind of moving back into having classes. I was fortunate enough to take a couple classes in New York when I was there dropping my daughter off at school, which was great. they had vaccination procedures for the studios. So if you wanted to take class in studio, you had to be vaccinated, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Which I am. So I was like more than happy to go and actually get to move in space.
Mhm.
The good thing is that there were opportunities for people to study with different people from across the country because a lot of stuff moved to online. I have a
Mhm.
friend whose daughter got to study through Dance Theater of Harlem, and
Hmm.
she lives out here. You know, pre-pandemic, they didn't really have
Hmm.
that Zoom option of taking class and being part of the academy, and because of everything that happened with COVID, uh, she's been able to study with them for the last year. My company in particular, we have a day of dance that we do every year. In the last couple of years, we've done it online, and we've had students from Brazil come and study with our youth ensemble and participate in some of our master classes, and people from across the country. Um, that is something that we wouldn't have thought to do before the pandemic, and I'm hoping that that kind of outreach will continue so that all of us can, you know, expand our horizons, expand our audiences. Um, yeah.
No, that would be great. I mean, it would be great for it to continue. For
Yes. Yeah.
um, which one of the pieces that you've choreographed is the closest to your heart, and why?
Oh, interesting. Um, I would say the Watsons go to Birmingham.
Hmm.
I our performances of that actually ended like February 23rd, 2020,
Hmm.
right before the world shut down. Bernadette Speaks is the director, and she's a good friend of mine, and we've collaborated. She's brought me in a couple times. But one of the things I loved about that process was she brought me in from the jump, and we really collaborated on casting the show, on, um, you know, from the beginning, like how the dance was going to be used as opposed to me coming in and choreographing these three numbers. You know, I was really able to feel a part of the vision, the creation process of the whole play, which I really enjoyed and I really loved. And hey, Bernie, and I love working with her, and she's very open and very creative, and the cast was really amazing to work with as well. They were very open to what we were trying to do and just trying different things and worked hard at getting the timing on some of the steps and things like that. So that was really, really a lovely, lovely experience. Um, I felt like a part of, sometimes as a choreographer, you feel like separate, you
Hmm.
know, like this is the crew and then this is the cast.
So why is that?
I think it's a matter of time because
Hmm.
in a lot of situations, you only get to spend a limited amount of time with the cast where they're together the whole rehearsal process all together,
Hmm.
you know, whereas as opposed to the 4 hours you're with them
Hmm.
each week until the show or whatever,
Hmm.
um, depending on the show.
Hmm.
Um, but for that one, you know, I really felt like everyone was a whole as a family.
Hmm.
Um, and part of that was just because of the amount of time I got to spend
Hmm.
with them,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
makes sense.
and working on that and seeing them from the audition process all the way through and from their first reads, you know,
Mhm.
through everything. So
What do you think it is about dancing that makes people so darn happy?
I think there's something about moving that lets your mind kind of be free. You know,
Hmm.
once you like let go and just let your body go, there's something about it that is just freeing, that lets your spirit go, oh, you know, lets everything just kind of like take a big sigh of relief and just let it go.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's why they came up with dance therapy. There's actually a therapy called
I
dance therapy.
know. And it's wonderful. It makes, you know, it makes a big difference.
Can you tell us something about your biggest wins or proudest achievements?
Um, I would definitely say one of my biggest wins was getting cast in Lion King. That was a huge deal for me. That was the first time I had had a job of that scope,
Magnitude.
magnitude, financial impact,
Hmm.
all of the above. It had been a show I had been trying to get in since it opened initially. You know, they had so many of my resumes that I sent to them. When my company at the time was on tour in New York, we were trying to get in to see them, but then they were like somewhere else auditioning, and so finally having them come out here
You
and
opened
going
the
through
LA
the
production, correct? You opened
yes,
the LA
yeah,
production. And did those people that you were auditioned for in LA, were they familiar from all the stuff you had sent to them before, or
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes. They're like, "Oh, hi, Sherry," because they just knew, you know. Um, and I came into the open call for the singers. I came into the open call for the dancers. I was like, "You will see me." I sang a different song. I was like, "Look, I can sing like this, and I can sing like that." And um, I just kind of went after it, and I choreographically, it was really hard to learn. And I had one moment in the Lioness Chant where we're stopping and we're facing the side and we look like we're stalking someone. And Garth Fagan happened to be sitting right in front of me.
Who?
Garth Fagan, he choreographed The Lion King.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so I was like, okay, you have to stare this man dead in his eyes. You can't look at his chin or off to the side. Like, this is your moment to like bore into his soul and be like, pick me. And
Hmm.
I did that. And
Hmm.
I swear, I will swear up and down to this day, that was the moment he was like, her.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Because that was the moment I just like reached out and was like, rah!
That's great. That's great. In what ways has dance changed you as a person? How has it impacted your life?
Oh, so many ways. Dance is the most, has been such an amazing gift to me because I can walk into rehearsal frustrated, angry, tired, any of those things, and we can start moving. And by the end, I am laughing. I'm just like, it's one of those places where I feel the most myself. Um, there are a lot of people in my life who've never seen me dance, and I feel like once you see me dance, then you really, really know who I am.
Hmm.
Because there's a big part of me that you're kind of missing if you've never seen me on stage dancing.
Hmm.
I don't know what that's about. It just, it's the fun thing I've done the longest. It was the first thing that I looked at and said, that's me.
Hmm. At what age do you think one should start to train if they want to embark on a career as a professional dancer?
Um, I mean, I think that depends on if you say like train for fun or seriously train. My daughter started when she was 7. I started when I was 5. But
Hmm.
if you were kind of on a career track, I would say 10 is a great age. Misty Copeland, who is one of the most famous dancers in the world right now, didn't start till she was 12 or 13, which is kind of
Hmm.
late, but hello. It can be done. I have been in company with dancers who started when they were 17 or 18, and they were able to, by hard work and
And
training, they were able to become professionals. Um,
do male dancers still typically start later, or has that changed? Or are now male dancers starting to train earlier
um,
as well?
I think it's a mixed bag. Uh, my dance partner in the dance company started later. He started at 18, I believe. And he's insanely beautiful, this amazing dancer. But there are a lot of boys in dance studios now, a lot more than, you know, there used to be. And I think that comes from shows like So You Can Think You Can Dance. So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars and
Hmm.
commercials, a lot more commercials with dance and hip hop and different things like that. I think they're getting a lot more examples, even on YouTube, um, of male dancers, and there's less a stigma as far as being a man,
Hmm.
being a boy, and loving dancing than there used to be.
Who was your most influential teacher?
Hmm. I would say I would have to say William Riley. I would have to say my ballet
Hmm.
teacher. not only taught me the technique that I use to this day, which is why I am as seasoned as I am and still dancing, still able to dance and do what I love to do, but he also taught me
Hmm.
hard work. He taught me how to learn things quickly. He taught me how to be demanding and have demands of your students, but still be loving and encouraging and build them up. Um, those are things, lessons that I use when I'm teaching to this day.
And how do you inspire and motivate your own
I
students?
think one of the ways to motivate and inspire them is by not letting them give up. Um, I'm the first one in my dance class to say, if we're going across the floor, go all the way. I don't care if it's wrong. You don't stop in the middle and walk off because you're not going to get better if you just give up. You have to keep trying and keep trying. And I also try and find something to encourage them on. You know, if you don't get the feet right, that's all right. Your arms look great. We're going to start with that. Just pick one little thing at a time. It'll all come together if you keep trying.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I really like to try and find ways to encourage. I try to have fun in class, but at the same time, be strict enough to be like, okay, this is the time where we have to listen. This is the time where we have to be respectful. I always say if I'm talking, I want all eyeballs on me. It's like if you're not looking at me, I don't feel like you're listening.
Have you ever considered another career than entertainment?
No, never. I have been, now I have worked as an executive assistant so that I could live and then danced at night and taught at night. I've had
Right.
regular jobs while I was performing.
But dancing was still something you were still
No,
involved in.
yeah, I worked so that I could afford to dance and not be paid for rehearsal.
Right, right. Yeah. I think that's how many of us artists are. What's the most common misconception about dancers?
um, I think people think dancers are dumb sometimes.
Where does that come from, do you think?
I think people think that about anybody who makes a living doing something physical or using their body.
Hmm.
You know, I think sometimes people think athletes are dumb or think dancers are dumb or think models are dumb, you know, and none of that is true. It's like anything else. There are some that, you know, may not be the brightest, but to do what we do takes a lot of brains. You have to be very smart as a dancer. It takes a lot to be able to learn all those steps, to be able to think about the different parts of your body and what several parts of your body are doing at one time. It takes a lot to be able to do all of that while thinking about the story and the character you're trying to portray, while trying to be in um, tempo with the music, while trying to stay in line with six other people or in the right formation. Like
Hmm.
there's so much that goes into it.
Hmm.
You have to be a smart dancer.
What do you think is the most challenging thing about your work?
I would say for me now, the physical limitations. As I get older, it gets harder. It gets harder. But I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. And even after I stop dancing with a company, I will forever be a dancer. I will always be trying to take somebody's class somewhere and do what I can do. You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of what I approach, how I approach class and stuff today, these days, especially with my injuries. I'm like, I'm going to do what I can do. I'm not going to be mad about what I'm able to do right now in this moment.
Hmm.
I'm just going to be happy I'm here moving.